Good morning, world. Today is Monday, October 13th, 2025. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker, coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, on the east coast of the United States of America. And the weather today in this area, going all the way up to 75 degrees, sunshine, highs in the mid-70s and lows in the upper 40s. Coastal flooding in Avalon Bay, New Jersey. Ragweed pollen, those of you that have allergies, decreasing tomorrow. And currently, according to the National Weather Service for this area, the conditions for running are fair, for cycling, good, and for gardening, fair weather. Currently, the AQI is good at 42. The UV index is low right now, and although we don't mention it much, humidity is 100%. The dew point is 49 degrees, which means the air is dry. And there is a light breeze at 4 miles per hour. It's currently 7:05 a.m. here. Sunrise will be at 7:45 a.m., so a little bit ahead of sunrise. Sunset, 7:02 p.m. Definitely fall heading into the winter months. In other geographical locations regarding the weather, high winds whip Atlantic City, and hundreds ordered to flee Colorado flooding. On a weather note, on this day, feet of snow fell in Buffalo during crippling early season lake effect event. The winter kicked off with a bang around Buffalo, New York in 2006. 2 feet of crippling early season lake effect snow. So that's the weather currently in this area. And getting into the news for today, the last time the show was on the air, President Trump had said that his tariffs had brought in $17 trillion. The White House estimate on such deals is half of that amount at $8.8 trillion in investments and commitments under Trump. The Independent, which carried the article entitled, "Where's the Missing $17 trillion?" Lawmaker says Trump must reveal what has been done with new investment bonanza he keeps boasting about. In their section, Politics, concludes the article with this. The Trump administration's tariffs, which have netted the U.S. upwards of $158 billion since Trump took office, are expected to raise $2.3 trillion in revenue over the next decade, 10 years, and $17 trillion is more than double the entire GDP of the U.S. economy. So, I had wondered what the letters GDP stand for. So, and then more importantly, how does that affect or what does that have to do with me? So, not trying to play on your intelligence or your ability to think for yourself. I remember that every country in the world provides an education, K through 12, college, and university. But as regular as we are, with jobs and responsibilities, things do get past us, especially when it comes to updating how things are referred to. I don't remember hearing the term GDP. I do remember GNP, gross national production, in the context of the American economy. So I Googled it. Let me say this. If you're still wondering about AI, It is here. I know that some of you are currently involved in furthering your education will probably smile at my saying that about AI. But remember, I graduated from high school without Google. And probably so did your parents. A pop-up appears inviting me to use AI to answer my questions. So I asked AI the question, and the answer comes back, along with the statement that said, AI does make mistakes. Now, I know you have search engines that come all the way from AOL, American Online, to ChatGPT to answer any questions you might have. But for AI to admit that it does make mistakes, so I'm thinking, Google never told me that. I'm human. I make mistakes. We should get along. So back to the question, what does GDP stand for? And this is what I found out. And I did use Google as my reference, folks, just so we are good with that one. So here we go. In the context of government and business, GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product, which is the total value of all final goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period, typically 1 year. It serves as a key indicator of a nation's economic health and is used to measure whether the economy is growing or shrinking. Measurement. GDP is calculated by adding up consumer spending, government spending, business investments, and net exports, which is the value of exports minus imports. Government's role. Governments regularly report and analyze GDP figures to understand the state of their economy, as it is a crucial metric for policymakers, central banks, and businesses alike. Impact. Changes in GDP growth rates are closely monitored because they can indicate economic expansion or contraction and can have a direct impact on individuals and businesses through things like employment, investment, and prices. What does GDP mean in simple terms? In simple terms, GDP, gross domestic product, is the total value of all finished goods and services a country produces in a specific time period. It is a key way to measure the size and health of an economy, showing how much is being produced and how the economy is performing. A rising GDP typically means the economy is growing, which can lead to a better standard of living for people. Consumption. Spending by households on goods and services like food, rent, and entertainment. Investment. Spending by businesses on things like machinery and equipment, as well as new construction. Government spending. The total amount the government spends on goods and services, such as salaries for public employees and military equipment. Net exports. In parentheses, X minus M. This is the value of exports, what a country sells to other countries, minus the value of imports, what a country buys from other countries. Exports are added because they represent production within the country. Imports are subtracted because they are included in C, I, or G, but were produced elsewhere. Why GDP is important. It is a health check. Economists use GDP to gauge the overall health of a country's economy. For comparison, it allows for comparisons between different economies and tracks how the same economy changes over time. For policymakers use GDP data to help design and implement economic policies. So that's applicable worldwide, I would say. And just dealing with the United States, which state has the highest GDP here? California has the highest GDP of any U.S. state, with a preliminary 2024 nominal GDP of about $4.1 trillion. This places California's economy as the fourth largest in the world, behind only the US, China, and Germany. California's GDP, approximately $4.1 trillion, preliminary 2024. Texas GDP, the second largest state economy at around $2.7 trillion, and New York's GDP, the third largest at approximately $2.3 trillion. What is considered a good GDP number? A good GDP is one with positive, sustainable growth, ideally in the 2 to 3% range, as this indicates a healthy, expanding economy without being too fast or too slow. While the specific number varies by context, positive real GDP growth indicates increasing production of goods and services, often correlating with rising employment and personal incomes. So that's just a quick information update going from GNP to GDP and why and how it applies to you. I did have another question which I asked Google. What countries have the highest GDP? So, on a list of 16, it is as follows: United States, China, Germany, Japan, India, United Kingdom, sixth largest economy in the world with a strong service sector, France, Italy, Brazil, Canada, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, today is Canada's Thanksgiving Day. Next, behind Canada, is Russia. Russia's GDP per capita is the highest among the BRICS countries, which I think most recently in the news, someone used Chinese yuan, Y-U-A-N, money, concerning BRICS and trying to dollarize things, and paid with Chinese money for that oil. Mexico, Australia, South Korea, Spain, Indonesia, Netherlands, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Switzerland. Folks, if you haven't figured it out by now, we're all here on the planet Earth, sharing goods and services. Some of them might not get out of our neighborhood, but nonetheless, it's still there and recognizable. I guess it's been a while now, but under the same subject but for a different reason, I was looking at different countries in Africa, and on the west coast of Africa, Côte d'Ivoire, a very small country, has a seaside, access to the ocean and things of this nature. And as small as their economy is, they do have oil in the country. So it kind of balances things out. Nature has her way of keeping things going. So that's where we are with the GDP and what it means and how it relates to you and why it is important related to goods and services. Including the countries with the highest GDP. Well, I just wanted to run that past y'all today, just so to keep things moving along and we're able to understand what's coming across in the media and what's being talked about. So again, world, this is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. That's it. Hashtag.